whenever you have a child that looks different, then that child is a focal point and it is many times treated differently. And so it's something that has to be addressed. It's ridiculous to tell a child, you're in our family now, you're just like we are, and not acknowledge the differences because they're there.
My daughter was adopted and she comes from Turkey, and so you can maybe imagine that we are not a pair that look very much alike. She has beautiful, thick, dark black hair and kind of olive colored skin. And it's a good example of, in school, people would say, now, what's going on here? Does your husband look, is he from another country? I mean, so it was always an issue for people that sometimes had no business to ask, quite frankly. I mean, I didn't even know their name yet, and they'd be asking me kind of personal questions, and she got that same thing. And so one of the things that she did that I think is common, not always, but very common, is she started really exploring her heritage as she got older. Early through her teenage years, she was very uncomfortable with it and really wanted to bleach her hair, and she just wanted to look Caucasian, and I felt very bad about that. But even within school, she also would kind of go back and forth because she also did a whole report on her Turkish culture and brought some foods and some of the dress and things like that. So she kind of went both ways as she was trying to explore her identity. When she got to be 22, I guess it was, she started really being around people of the Turkish culture, really understanding people that had immigrated here from Turkey. And then she went over to Turkey, found her birth family, really got to know her culture in a different way, so that she, could become more familiar with who she is and what that missing piece is in her life, so that she could feel more like a whole person. And I think her experience is common. It's just wanting to know that piece that I don't understand, that is different for me, that I don't maybe get a lot of exposure to.
I think all of my children are adopted transracially. I have my 2 Colombian children who could pass for white, and it was really different because we adopted those 2 children first. When we adopted African American, we got totally different questions. It was very different. It was like we had crossed the color line, which was exactly what we did. But I was surprised because in my mind, I knew it was going to be a lot different, but I wasn't really prepared for how differently people were going to react to us and to my children, because all of them are minority. But for my African American children, it was very different, the response in my community. And at this point, we already had 2 adopted children, international adoptions, and yet it was very different, the response we got. And then when we adopted older African American children, the response to them was even more different. It was like, well, it's okay, it's kind of okay that you do these little babies, but these older kids, and they're minorities, and they're from the foster care system, it was kind of like, whoa, you've really stepped out of the bounds of normal, and you're making us nervous. That was kind of the response that we got as a family. The other thing that I think is really powerful, that I don't know that I thought a lot about prior to adopting, that I wish somebody would have talked to me about. We didn't have any training prior to adoption. It's been a long time. Now they're doing better with providing training. But the impact on the child. My children, if they go anywhere with my husband or I, are immediately questioned, if not verbally, by body language of who are you, who do you belong to, and why are you with these people? Where if my children were adopted in race, nothing would be said. And they probably wouldn't even think an adoption question. And yet, if we go to a new soccer team, if we go to a new school, if we go to, just the grocery store, that's what my children have to contend with, and I have to contend with. If I don't, I can choose to wear it or not wear it. If I go to the grocery store by myself, I don't get those looks. I don't have to deal with that. If I choose to go with my children, then I do. My children sometimes don't have to wear it if they go with their siblings, because I have 4 African American children, so they can go together in a group. They'll get the looks that they would get just as an African American person, not a part of the dominant culture, but not the same looks as when they go with me. So as a family, anytime that you go anywhere together, my children wear the badge of adoption, so to speak. They can't not be reminded that they are adopted, which for me is hard because, you know, everybody just wants to be an individual and a person. They don't want to wear this sign, so to speak, I'm adopted. And I think that parents need to really think about that before, because you've got to be okay with that, and I don't appear to be right now, because I feel sorry for them and feel bad for them, because if I could choose, I would not choose that for them, because it just feels weird to be the poster child for anything. You know, the poster child for cancer, the poster child for whatever. Nobody wants to be that. And so I try really hard to provide them environments where I'm the odd person out, such as the Kwanzaa celebration at the University of Utah. My son has an African drumming teacher who he was able to be with, and if nobody thought a thing about it, they'd think he was his son, and that would be great for him. You know, and I could sit being the proud mother in the audience and be proud of his accomplishments. I try to put him in environments where a lot of the people look like him, and I'm the odd one out. And I think that's healthy for them to be able to be in environments where they're not the minority. But as a dominant culture, I have to seek that out for him. I can't pretend it doesn't matter. I can't pretend that those things don't exist. I have to go out and consciously make the effort to make those connections with those people so that they can be helpful to my children. Also, I have to realize I don't have all the answers for my kids. I'm a white person who's grown up in a white culture. I will never experience what my children experience, and I can't pretend that I have. And so I need to provide adults for them that can relate to what they're going through and can answer their questions and can basically commiserate what they're going through and kind of throw things off. As you grow up as a child and to an adolescent, you're always asking your parents, well, what about this? Or did you ever have this happen? Well, my kids can do that in some respects, but I think an adult of their same race also needs to be there to kind of bounce that off of. I have the luxury of my kids that are African American range from 9 to 21. So they, within their little group of 4, can kind of talk and relate to each other, and how did you handle this, or did this ever happen to you? So that's kind of built in our family, which I think is kind of important. I wouldn't want to see any African American child be the only child of color in their family. It may happen, but I think it's helpful to have the built-in resources for the child, but also understand that I can't be everything to them like I could a Caucasian child.